Greetings and best wishes to all. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome all of you to the 9th Annual Debate Championship Competition 2021 on behalf of Anandu Multimedia School and College. The topic that the debaters are going to debate today is only strict law can control coronavirus. The program is divided into 3 segments. The first one is the introducing segment, the second one is a debating segment, and the last one is the result publishing segment. Dear ladies and gentlemen, this time I'd like to take everyone to the introducing phase of today's competition. May I introduce the honorable judges of the program? Mr. Muhammad Zahirul Islam Ripon, Head of the Department of English of Dr. Khandokar Mosharraf Hossain College. Mr. Muhammad Moniruzzaman, Assistant Headmaster of Junabali High School. Mr. Muhammad Helal Al Mamun, Assistant English Teacher of Gauripur Shubal Aftab High School. Now, I'd like to introduce the debaters, the main attraction of today's program. The debaters from the position team are Fahima Akter, Ishan Mahmud Roman, Tashfia Ulfat Usha, Minhajul Alam Arman, and leader of the position team is Sadman Sakib Himel. The debaters from the opposition team are Afrin Jui, Mansura Jahan, Sadman Sakib, Mili Sultana, and the leader of the opposition team is Tanha Sarkar. Dear audience, you all will pray for the debaters. Now, I would like to request the moderator, Mr. Muhammad Zahirul Islam Ripon, to conduct the program. Thank you all.
At first, I would like to invite the first debater of position team, Fahima Akter, to deliver his speech.
The safety of the people will be the highest law, stated by Prince Charles, the son of Queen Elizabeth II. However, here present our honorable moderator, respectable teachers, dear listeners, and all of my well-wishers. At first, take my religious greeting, Assalamu alaikum. Today, we are debating on the topic that only strict law can control COVID-19. I am Fahima Akter, the first debater from position team. Now, I am starting my speech. Honorable moderator, first of all, I would like to clarify our debating topic. There are mainly 2 points in the topic. One is strict law and another is coronavirus. Strict law is the law which is enacted by the government and is also implemented. To clarify it properly, I would like to bring an example. There is a football bridge in Gauripur bus stand, but no one is using it. If there is a strict law where the persons who are not using the football bridge would be kept in Mobile Code Act 2009 punishment, then everyone would use it like the row of the ants. Now I will elaborate coronavirus, commonly known as COVID-19. Coronavirus is a contagious disease caused by severe respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, that means SARS-CoV-2. It's not a new concept for the medical unit around the globe. The first case of coronavirus was found in 1965 in human body. But novel coronavirus 2019 or COVID-19 is a new arrival of virus from the family of coronavirus. It's a contagious disease caused by severe respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2. The first case of COVID-19 was found in Wuhan city of Hubei province of China in 31st December 2019. Due to this killing disease, one has to wear face masks, keep social distancing, ventilation, and hand washing. Because of following the strict laws which has been enacted by every government of the world, lockdown and curfew is remarkable. China, the place of origin of COVID-19, controlled their COVID-19 situation throughout this lockdown. Mainly, lockdown is enacted at that time when the COVID-19 cases increases and become out of control. As for example, in the last of 2020, there was lockdown in Bangladesh because the COVID-19 cases were too high. As an effectiveness, there was less COVID-19 cases in February of 2021. And as an effectiveness, there was also lockdown in July of 2021, and for this, we are being able to control this epidemic situation. Now, let's talk about Spanish flu, the great influenza epidemic of 19th century. In that time, there was no vaccine for the diseases like pneumonia, influenza, and people were not aware about these diseases. And for this, the infected and death rate were increasing greatly. But when the government of USA enacted many strict laws like lockdown, quarantine, mandatory mask wearing, then amazingly the infected and death rate were started to decrease, and the USA was the first country that was able to control this epidemic situation. Information collected from www.bbc.com. So dear opponent, my question to you that, can you control COVID-19 without following strict laws? Now I would like to talk about Mansoura, the second debater of my opposition team. Mansoura has taken interview of many students of her school where she wanted to know about their feelings after lockdown. This video is published in the official Facebook page and YouTube channel of another multimedia school and college. So my dear opponent, my question to you that, is it possible to control COVID-19 without lockdown where your team member is the main evidence? I want a logical answer from you. Honorable Moderator, there are 13 million people who live in abroad from Bangladesh. It's our responsibility to give them protection. In that case, strict law is also active. The immigrants must stay in quarantine for 14 days, and the immigrants must stay in quarantine and they have to take vaccine either is COVID-free or not, and they must be tested either he is COVID-free or not. And now I would like to talk about vaccine. Honorable Moderator, strictly is also active in providing vaccine. The greatest example is the teachers of our school. They must to take vaccine because it's a strict law. Like them, the workers of every institution have to take vaccine. Even our government has implemented many strict laws to give vaccine to the students. So dear opponent, my question to you that, is it possible to control COVID-19 without lockdown, and can you go abroad or come in Bangladesh without following strict laws? Thank you all for listening my speech. Pray for me. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Akter, to deliver the speech. Now I would like to invite first debater of opposition team, Afrin Dewey. Afrin Dewey to make your statement.
Present, Honorable Moderator, respectable teacher, my dear opponents, listeners, and all of my well-wisher. At first, take my salam. Assalamu alaikum. Today, our debating topic is only strict law can control coronavirus, and I'm strongly against this topic. However, I'm Afrin Dewey, the first debater from the opposition team, and I'm going to deliver my lecture. Honorable Moderator, law is a system of rules that a society or government develops in order to deal with crime, business agreements, and social relationships. COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by newly discovered coronavirus. On 7 January 2020, the World Health Organization WHO named the 7 species of coronavirus found in Wuhan in China as 2019 nCoV. Then, on 11 February 2020, the WHO named the disease COVID-19. Coronavirus disease found in 2019, simply known as COVID-19. Coronavirus was first identified in 1930, and for the first time in human body, this coronavirus was identified in 1960. The government has declared various guidelines to prevent this deadly disease which causes respiratory dysfunction. These are wearing mask, maintaining social distance, sanitizing hands. Maintaining 4-meter distance from person to person is obligatory to be safe from COVID-19, also known as social distancing. So my question to my opponent, is it possible to maintain this criteria for a country where the density of population is 1,265 people living in per square kilometer? If it is possible, does this law have an effectiveness? I hope you'll give the best and logical answer. Honorable Moderator, my opponent first debater asked me a question that, is it possible to control COVID-19 without lockdown and curfew? And added that, our team member is the main evidence? My opponent, I agree with you that strict law have achieved success in opening schools and colleges after 18 months long, and the Minister of Education postponed the date of opening schools from April 1 till September 12, 2021, which is the highest stoppage of working days for schools and colleges in the world. Why did the Minister of Education postpone the date after date while law was there? Due to consciousness of government, the date was postponed. So you can't give the whole credit to law. I hope you have got your answer. Honorable Moderator, poliomyelitis, simply known as polio, is an infectious disease. It directly affects the central nervous system, or you can say brain, and muscle weakness. It was first discovered in 1979 in Bangladesh and turned into a serious issue for Bangladesh. Later, this vaccination was invented and spread among the mass people. But there was no legal obligations or laws. People vaccinated their child for their awareness and consciousness. And Bangladesh was declared as a polio-free country in 2014 by the WHO. So my another question to my opponent, where awareness can make Bangladesh polio-free, can't awareness control COVID-19? I want a logical answer from you. Honorable moderator, my opponent first debater asked me another question that, can we go to abroad without following strict law? My opponent, I agree with you that one cannot go to abroad without following strict law. But if the step was taken at the base of the disaster situation, coronavirus would not enter our country. Law in this case have worked foolishly and made an unsmart move. I hope you have got your answer. So, honorable moderator, in the light of my discussion, I just want to say that only strict law cannot control COVID-19. Rather, other factors are must. Thank you all for listening to my speech with such highly patience. Pray for me. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Afrin Joey. Now I would like to call upon the second debater of position team, Ishan Mahmood Roman, to deliver his speech.
Unity and cooperation, these are the foresights which can save us from COVID-19, stated by United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Whatever, here present, honorable moderators, respectable teachers, judges, and all my dear well-wishers. At first, take my religious greeting, Assalamu alaikum. Today, the topic we are debating on that only the strict law can control coronavirus. I am Roman, the second debater from position. COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused mild to moderate symptoms of fever. This virus is linked to the same family of viruses of severe acute respiratory syndrome. The people who are aged and those are underlying to some medical problems like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and chronic respiratory disease, the rate of septicemia is more than the typical people who have good health and better metabolism. Honorable judges, as you know, at present all the countries are affected by novel coronavirus. About 47 lakhs of people have already died, and this census is growing up every day. We all are passing hard days during this pandemic. It is a matter of sorrow that many of us who are present here have lost their close and dear ones died by coronavirus. We have lost many social workers, political leaders, and legends who are assets to the whole nation. As the affected rate of COVID in Bangladesh gradually increasing, then our government have enacted strict laws for their nation. But due to indomitable condition and perspective from Bangladesh point of view, I have to say, only the strict law can control coronavirus. Today, me and my team members will give you some information, logics, and we will discuss our today's topic so that you can have a clear concept only the strict law can control coronavirus. Honorable judges, as you know, the first COVID case was found in Bangladesh on 7th March 2020. At the beginning of first COVID-19 outbreak, people were told to use masks, sanitizers, and to maintain social distance properly. Different institutions like educational institutions, travel agencies, and banks were closed gradually. The government have termed a policy, no mask, no service. Mirjadi Sabrina Flora, the Director General of Health Association of Bangladesh, who used to give briefing on coronavirus infection and talk about how can we avoid coronavirus. She used to give us advice to use masks, sanitizers, and to maintain social distance properly. But who cares, my opponent? People are roaming here and there without wearing mask and maintaining proper sanitation. But my opponent, when wearing mask and maintaining proper sanitization is been mandatory, then all are following these rules. That's why my opponent, nothing like force. All the impossibles are made possible by applying force. Hell, law acts like that force. Honorable judges, according to section 269 of Mobile Code Act 2009, many people are taken under punishment and many were fined for not maintaining proper sanitization. On the other hand, on 17th March 2021, the executive magistrate of DNCC fined and punished many people for not having masks and maintaining proper sanitization. Honorable judges, the current mayor of Dhaka North City Corporation is Sir Atikul Islam. In a public awareness conference indicating about the importance of washing hands, more than 2,000 people gathered. In a way of removing COVID through awareness, Sir Atikul Islam forgot his awareness on social distancing. Is it the consequence of following awareness, my opponent? Oh, my opponent, what can I say? But I'm very glad to see this type of consciousness among us. My opponent, if your law is utilized properly, then this sort of incidents will never happen. Honorable judges, as you know, the first COVID case was found in China between early October to mid-November in 2019. So, to be safe from this infectious disease, they closed their borders with the neighboring countries and in their own states. In that case, they are among the top 5 countries who are able to overcome COVID successfully. Their achievement is incomparable. In the same way, New Zealand, Montenegro, Bolivia, Chile, and Finland have closed their borders with the neighboring countries. By closing the borders, the COVID carriers are unable to travel from one country to another. My dear opponent, the above-mentioned countries have followed the enacted strict laws by the government, and that is the main reason, my opponent, why we can't be same as them. So question to my opponent that what is the reason that people couldn't travel another country? Isn't it strict law? I am hoping a logical answer from you. My dear opponent, you have asked me a question. Is it possible to maintain social distancing on our country? or does strict law has no effectiveness? Obviously, my opponent, strict law can maintain social distancing in our country. First of all, it's your fault. You think strict law can't control coronavirus in Bangladesh. My dear opponent, law is never inactive in case of higher population or whether social distancing. Strict law has maintained it through, and because of its effectiveness, my opponent, we are able to go to school, college, and market. And because of its presence, we have made it possible to control COVID-19 in Bangladesh. My dear opponent, if strict law doesn't have any effectiveness, can you think about today's Bangladesh? Oh, my opponent, I haven't thought you were gonna ask this type of lame question. I hope that you have got your illogical answer. Honorable judges, education is the backbone of a nation. For about more than 2 years, all these students were unable to have academic education existing in schools, colleges, and universities. But strict law has made education sector free from corona, and that's why we are able to conduct this debate competition. To stop the spread of COVID, SSC, HSC, and even university examinations has been postponed. My dear opponent, because there is strict law, no educational institutions are able to have admission in close contact. My dear opponent, on 18 September 2021, the magistrate of April Upajala visited after the schools to have a look after the COVID laws. But my opponent, when the strict law became only law, then everyone started to disobeying the laws. Here it is completely visible. Where there is strict law, there is awareness. Thank you all, moderator, judges, for listening my speech. Pray for me. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Ishan Mahmoud Roman, for your speech. Now I would like to call upon the second debater of opposition team, Mansura Jahan.
Providing law is easy, but governing is difficult, stated by Oliver North. However, here present, honorable moderator, respectable teachers, the listeners, and all of my well-wishers. At first, take my salam, assalamu alaikum. I am Mansura Jahan, the second debater from the opposition team, and today our debating topic is only strict law can control coronavirus. But I'm totally on its opposition because only strict law cannot control COVID-19. Rather, other factors like mass awareness, consciousness are also necessary. However, now I'm starting my speech. An article named Policy Brief, which was published on August 30, 2021, shows that in response to the emergence of the coronavirus, the government of Bangladesh reduced the international flights. On March 15, the government of Bangladesh cancelled all the flights coming from the Europe to land in the airport. But the authorities still allowed the flights of the Europe to land in the airport. That is why about 6 lakh people entered the country within just 30 days. Although the Institution of Epidemiology, Disease Control and Research Center stated that it tested every single person who entered in the ports, but there have been an intense criticism of the testing facilities in the airports. Again, the flights of the Italy were allowed to land in the airport, which was identified as a new epicenter of coronavirus. Beginning on March 16, the government of Bangladesh declared a 14-day long obligatory quarantine for the expatriates coming from the different countries. Most of the expatriates were missing in the list, as they didn't maintain quarantine and were out in the crowd places, shopping malls, even in the tourist places. So my question to you is that, though the strict law cannot control only a simple expatriate situation, how can strict law control the pandemic disease like COVID-19? Honorable moderator, my opponent asked me a question that why people couldn't travel another country, and added that it is obviously because of strict law. Okay, if there was a strict law in the beginning stage of the COVID-19, then there would not be any coronavirus in Bangladesh. So from where or how did the COVID-19 enter in our country? Obviously from the expatriates coming from the different countries. Or you were just thinking that the COVID-19 grew as like plants? Honorable moderator, while millions of the countries across the world are confined to their homes, offices and businesses shut, and the economics are on the verge of the collapse, there are some countries that haven't followed others in locking down their residents. Countries like South Korea, Sweden, and Tajikistan didn't impose any strict protocol, but spread mass awareness among the people. South Korea, which is reminded to be one of the countries that has managed the situation under control without any lockdown. The country followed the strategy of aggressive testing, contract testing, and isolation. Within the first 10 weeks, the country recorded no new coronavirus records by spreading mass awareness, not strict law. Honorable moderator, my opponent asked me another question that the strict law controlled the COVID-19 in education sector. I agree with you for a while that the schools and colleges were strictly the schools and the colleges were open and the laws were strictly maintained. But after maintaining the laws strictly, how did the 4 students from the Josh were attacked with the coronavirus? Before this news, no news was headlined that the students were attacked with coronavirus. Now, I have a question mark over you law. I mean strict law. Honorable Moderator, according to the Section 30, Action number 35, Dowry Prohibition Act 1980, if any person after the commencement of this act gives or takes dowry, he will be punishable with a 5 years imprisonment or fine or both. This is definitely a strict law. But has it become successful? No, my dear opponent, no. The devil of dowry still prevails here. According to the article Odhikar published that about 5,699 women become the victim of dowry from 2001 to 2017. Even in this running year, about 147 women become the victim of dowry. Amid the concern over violence across the country, a housewife of Runguni Upazila in Chattogram faced the barbaric tortures by her husband for dowry. She suffered severe burn injuries as her husband set fire to her on Friday, July 2021. The incident of Yasmin Akter is just like a teaser of a film. Like this, how many women are being affected with this torture? You can't imagine, my opponent. So my question to you is that, though the strict law cannot control only a social burden like dowry, how can strict law control the worldwide pandemic disease like coronavirus? My opponent, again and again it's proved that only strict law cannot control COVID-19. Rather, other factors like mass awareness, consciousness are also necessary. Thank you for listening to my speech. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Mansoura Jahan, for your speech. Now I would like to call upon third debater of position team, Tashfia Ulfat Usha.
The best way to get a bad law repealed is to enforce it strictly, stated by Abraham Lincoln. However, here present, honorable moderators, respectable teachers, my dear opponents, and all of my well-wishers. At first, take my salam, assalamu alaikum. Today, the topic we are debating on is only strict law can control coronavirus. I am Usha, the third debater from position team. Now I'm starting my speech. Honorable moderator, we are students. We need some recreation. Recreation makes our mind refresh, and sport is one of the best recreation in the world. In this sport, strict law is highly followed. Now, I'm giving some example. From 3rd August to 9th August, a series held between Bangladesh and Australian cricket team, and there were 11 strict laws demanded by the Australian cricket team. Some of these are: a 5-star hotel has to be booked only for them. During game, if the ball goes to the gallery from the playground, then the ball cannot be returned, and the match has to be continued by another new ball. Dear opponent, now you can say that the strict law came from the conscious mind of Australian team, but you have to think that who is doing the job, consciousness or strict law? Honorable moderator, we know Olympic 2020 held in Tokyo, Japan, and the government of Japan has implemented various strict laws during Olympic for COVID-19. The Prime Minister of Japan has banned all the spectators from Olympic venue in an effort to reduce the risk of COVID-19. Again, in the running ICC T20 World Cup, there is strict law. So, dear opponent, we all know about the importance of sports sector, and this sports sector is controlled by strict law. Then how can you even say that strict law can't control COVID-19? I want a logical reply from you. Honorable moderator, my opponent has left a question for me where she said, when strict law can't control a simple expatriate situation, then how can strict law control COVID-19? My opponent, don't you know when COVID spread all over the world, then there were international flight restrictions. Again, when the flight was permitted in some countries for a specific period of time, the travelers had to wear masks, sanitize themselves. They also had to maintain quarantine in Bangladesh. Otherwise, they are confiscated. I hope you got your answer. Honorable moderator, my opponent has asked me another question. When strict law can't control dowry system, then how can strict law control COVID-19? My opponent, we all know there are many strict laws for dowry. Bangladesh has made statutory law, namely the Dowry Prohibition Act 1980. This act only deals with the offense of giving or demanding dowry. As for example, on 27th October 2021, Iqbal Hussain, a traffic sergeant working in Khulna, was accused for torturing his wife, Dr. Sonia Samad, for dowry. Again, Solimullah Rafal of Shondipara Upazila was arrested because of dowry on 17th September 2021. Thousands of examples can be found in Bangladesh like this. So we are sure that we can control dowry by strict law. But are you sure about your awareness regarding dowry? Honorable moderator, my opponent Mansoura said that no expatriate was following 14 days quarantine. Honorable moderator, this information is completely wrong because my opponent will not be able to show me a single example regarding this. Dear opponent, can you So please don't give wrong information to our honorable moderator. Honorable moderator, South Korea is a conscious, developed, and among the first world countries. According to my opponent, South Korea is conscious and not following strict law. The total population of South Korea is 5,178,000 and their COVID cases is 4 lakhs in total. At present, more than 1,700 people are found COVID positive daily in South Korea. On the other hand, China is the largest population-based country in the world with a total of 142 crore people. But their COVID cases is only 1 lakh and only 26 people are found COVID positive daily in China. This is to be noted that China is following strict law. That is why their COVID cases is low. And South Korea is cautious, that is why their COVID cases is high. My opponent, according to you, the COVID cases of South Korea is controlled by awareness, not strict law. Then can we consider awareness is the main reason for high COVID cases in South Korea, and because of strict law, China is COVID free? I want a good reply from you. So opposition leader, I think you and your team members have got the logic that only strict law can control coronavirus. Thank you all for listening my speech with a huge patience. Pray for me. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Tashfia Ulfat Usha. Now I would like to invite Sadman Saki, third debater of opposition team, to make your statement. Sadman Saki.
Constitution is a way of life a state has chosen for itself, stated by Aristotle. However, here present honorable moderators, respectable teachers, dear listeners, and all of my well-wishers, at first take my cordial greetings. Assalamu alaikum. Today we are debating on the topic, only strict law can control coronavirus. I'm Sadman Sakib, the third debater from opposition. Now I'm starting my speech. The disease caused by coronavirus is also known as COVID-19. COVID-19, a respiratory malfunction syndrome transmittable from man to man through various mediums, has created the biggest chaos and disruptions of Earth's balance ever in the world history. About 27 crore people across the whole world were affected with coronavirus, along with 50 lakhs deaths. Seeing such a horrible figure of COVID-19, the government of our country have declared many protocols relating this disease, which is said by the first debater of my team. These are wearing masks, sanitizing hands, and maintaining social distance. Recently, a picture has surfaced on internet on which an executive magistrate mentioned by the second debater of my opponent team has seen taking pictures of some elderly citizens stand holding their ears for not complying with the orders of wearing masks. In this picture, the magistrate is also seen taking pictures of this old person with his own mobile phone. Now, we all sitting here knows Constitution is the written forms of law and supreme law of a state. According to Section 3, Article number 35 of the Constitution, any person cannot be given any painful, inhuman, cruel, or humiliating type of punishment, or cannot be behaved like this by anyone. So according to this, the act of a magistrate is completely illegal and disobedience to the law. Again, farmers' bank loan scam has stormed the whole country, whose main cause was S.K. Sinha. Surendra Kumar Sinha is the chief judge of our country for many years, and he was the approver and corrector of law. He was the principal beneficiary of farmers' bank loan scam. He was the main accused of illegal loans approved by him in violation of farmers' bank credit policy. So, questions to my opponent: where the workers of law are breaking its strict law, how can this law control COVID-19? Third debater of my opponent team asked me a question relating sports sector, which includes Bangladesh versus Australia series, Tokyo Olympics 2021, and ongoing ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2021, whose final is going to be held on 15th instant. My opponent, strict law have a role behind this event, but not only strict law, but also other factors have also acted accordingly. 11 protocols are given by Australian cricket team for the safety of their players, but these protocols do not exist in any of the laws of two countries, and Australian cricket board wanted these protocols due to their consciousness. Tokyo Olympics 2021 is held in 2021 but is said to be held in 2020. But this event was postponed by the Olympic Committee due to their consciousness and failure of strict law. ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2021 was going to be held in Australia in 2020. So why did the venue changed and the time changed of this tournament? Simply because of strict law, because of consciousness. Due to lockdowns in roads and highways in various years for our country due to COVID-19, the transportation sector faced a huge loss. And due to COVID-19, government declared many protocols relating this transportation sector, which includes half of the total passenger can be taken in a transport, providing proper masks and sanitizers to the passengers. And due to this, the transport committee owner wanted the fare of the transport double of the regular rate, and law accepted the demand. But after that, transports like bus, launches, ship are taking the passengers according to their passenger capacity and more than their passenger capacity, but also taking the fare double of their regular rate. And mask and sanitization, my opponent, this is beyond the dream of the people. Due to this unsmart move of law, people are traveling one place to another, costing double money without any kind of safety of COVID-19 and any kind of service said by the law. So question is to my opponent that where the law cannot reduce the sufferings of people, how can law control COVID-19? Third debater of my opponent team asked a question relating China and South Korea. My opponent, China is the country where coronavirus was first discovered. China is the country where deaths due to COVID-19 was first found. China is the reason of the biggest disruption of Earth's balance ever in the world history. China is the source from where the coronavirus spread throughout the 211 countries and sectors throughout the whole world. And you are comparing South Korea with China. But how can you forget the fact that China is the reason? That's why South Korea was affected by coronavirus. And you have said law have worked very properly in China to control COVID-19. But if law like flights of foreign countries, travels, etc. could work properly, we don't have to see the 50 lakhs deaths. We don't have to travel one place to another costing double money. Our schools, colleges wouldn't be shut for 18 months long. I hope you got your answer of your illogical question. The second debater of my opponent team said about a seminar of washing hands arranged by the Dhaka North City Corporation Mayor Atikul Islam, in which 2,000 people gathered in a seminar. My opponent, and you blamed the awareness due to this. But if you have also said that where awareness stops, strict law works. So awareness has failed in this sector. Where is the strict law? Was the strict law sleeping? Why didn't strict law break the seminar? That's $1 million question you cannot answer. Law can only bind people depriving their free will, but cannot eradicate or solve a problem properly. Where law, awareness and other factors could do a much better job. Thank you all for listening to my speech. Pray for me. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Sadman Saki. Now I would like to call upon fourth debater of position team, Minhajul Alam Arman. Minhajul Alam Arman to deliver his speech.
Only laws can ensure the good behavior of all people, stated by Aristotle. However, in our today's debate competition, here present, honorable moderator, dear judges, my teammates and opponents. First of all, take my salam, assalamu alaikum. Today we are debating on a topic that only strict law can control coronavirus. I am Arman, the fourth debater from position. Now I am going to start my speech. Honorable moderator, the novel coronavirus is simply known as COVID-19. After entering into the human body, it doesn't express itself at the beginning. It takes 14 days to express itself and defeat the immune system. And during these 14 days, it makes itself stronger and also can transmit from one person to another. As a result, the government has made a policy of isolation, which is mandatory for each and every person who has the COVID symptoms. And the person that comes from abroad and they have to stay in isolation for 14 days. As a result, they and their family members and others remain safe. By this way, strict law is controlling COVID-19. So it's my first question to my opponent that, is it possible to maintain the policy of isolation to control COVID-19 with a strict law? I hope I'll get a good answer from you. Honorable moderator, we all are human beings and we have our own religions, and strict law is giving us safety in our religious activities. There is armed forces in our festivals, like in our Eids and the pujas of Hindus and other religions, other activities. And the government has said us to say salat with maintaining some gaps, and the Bisho Istema was stopped for the last 2 years only to control COVID-19. In case of political sector, we can see that all kinds of meetings and the face-to-face conferences are stopped, and these are done in the online platforms by online meetings only to control COVID-19. So dear opponent, which one is working here? Obviously it's strict law. So it's another question for you that if there were no strict law in religious and political sector, will you be able to control COVID-19? And will you be able to see a COVID-free Bangladesh? I hope I'll get a better answer from you. Honorable moderator, the last Eid al-Adha was celebrated in 21st July 2021. And this Eid is so much memorable for us than all others because a video was viral in Facebook or YouTube that as well as there was a cattle hut in somewhere of the country. And the cow sellers didn't follow any rules and regulations and the restriction of the COVID-19. And whenever a car of reps stayed there and raided that place, the sellers ran away by leaving their cows, and which looks so funny. And for the safety of the people, the government arranged the online marketplaces for the cattle. And a target was took to sell 1 lakh cattle in more than 60 marketplaces like Evelis, Daras, and Bikra.com, etc. And 2,000 farmers will be connected with this platform set by Dhaka North City Corporation Mayor Atikul Islam. Honorable Moderator, my third debater of my opponent team asked me a question that strict law is unable to remove, workers of the law violate the law. So how can it control COVID-19? Honorable Moderator, my opponent, you cannot judge a book by its cover. I think my dear opponent don't know that workers of the law, if he violates the law, he or she should be punished. Did you forget the subject of the Porimoni and Golomsak Klein, who was an additional deputy speaker, additional deputy commissioner of the detective branch and a DMP? He didn't avoid any punishment, dear opponent. And the head of the anti-corruption committee was sent in jail due to his involvement in corruption. Honorable Moderator, my opponent asked me another question that strict law is unable to remove people's suffering. Dear opponent, I think you don't have any basic knowledge and you don't know the reality that, Honorable Moderator, whenever, due to the bad condition of the COVID-19, all kinds of travels like bus, trains, or aeroplanes were stopped, and the people were in a lot of sufferings, and the government stopped that. And after a long time, by the recommendation of the bus committee and the passengers, government come to a decision that one person can go in 2 seats and no extra one can sit here. And after a long time, when the COVID condition of our country come to a normal position, then the people move as always. So my dear opponent, don't show you lame statements and don't say like the fools. And be with us and say the strict law and only strict law can control COVID-19, not your end. Thank you all for listening my speech. Pray for me. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Minhajul Alam Arman. Now I would like to invite fourth debater of opposition team, Mili Sultana, to deliver his speech.
Laws are like spider web, through which the big flies pass and the little one get caught. Stated by David Harris. However, here present honorable moderator, respectable teachers, dear listeners, and all of my listeners. First of all, take my salam, assalamu alaikum. Today, our debating topic is only strict law can control coronavirus. But I am strongly against this topic because only strict law cannot control coronavirus. Rather, consciousness and other factors are also important. However, I am Mil Sultana, the fourth debater of opposition team. Now I'm starting my speech. Only strict law, isn't it, my dear opponent? My dear opponent are here to argue with us that one and only hard law can control COVID-19. But I'm not here to support them, and I will make it clear to them that not only strict law, but also responsibilities and other factors are also important. Decide some common laws to control COVID-19. The opponent, if a law is given, but there is no responsibility to maintain it, then what is the benefit of this law? Let's dive into the main topic. The recent talk of the topic in our country is PUBG and Free Fire. Players are non-battleground, simply known as PUBG, and Free Fire are a war combat-based Android game. The young generation had been suffering from this fever. Kids and teenagers become so addicted with this disease that the normal life had been hugely disrupted. To solve this problem, the worker of law had banned the game. But did the law by banning the game? No, my dear opponent. The law had only shut the eyelids of its own. But the players are running this game using server from another country, VPN, etc. So my dear opponent, my question to you that, why strict law has failed to eradicate a problem like Android game, how can you ban strict law control a huge problem like COVID-19? How, my dear opponent? Honorable moderator, due to strict law during pandemic situation, many countries restricted flight from other countries. For this reason, many people faced a lot of problems. Especially the person came to their own motherland to visit their families. Many people attempt suicide because they cannot support their family. There are so many news and us like this. A teacher started to sell vegetables in the road. International students who paid their tuition fees starting from 20 lakhs in advance. They are facing so many difficulties because of flight suspension year after year. So my dear opponent, is that strict law where the institutions are open, they're taking tuition fees, but the parents have no income to survive? Is that how strict law can make people survive?
Due to strict law without responsibility, the people will die by difficulties of food. If law can make people live in this way, can strict law control COVID-19? No, my dear opponent. However, a series of public protests in Bangladesh advocating improved road safety were held from 29 July to 8 August 2018, which is a world record Guinness Book holder. It's the biggest road safety movement ever occurred in this world. This movement was sparked by the death of two high school students in Dhaka Stuck by an unlicensed driver who was racing to collect passengers. This movement quaked the whole government, and there are no law regarding this criteria. After this occurrence, the government started hustling and bustle to create laws. Strict laws regarding road safety. But my dear opponent, this law was made by the government due to movement created by the consciousness. So do you have any answer of these questions? Where consciousness is creating laws, then how only strict law control COVID-19 without consciousness? How, my dear opponent? My opponent asked me a question that is it possible to maintain the policy of isolation with the strict law? My opponent, I agree with you that it is not possible to maintain the policy of isolation without strict law. But was it really effective? Even many people didn't abide by the law. They escaped themselves from the hand of law. But authority was thinking that they were kept in isolation. So I think you have got your satisfied answer. My opponent again asked me a question that if there were no strict law in religious and political sector, will you be able to control COVID-19? My opponent, you said that police achieved success in breaking protests and assembly in many political sectors. Again, mosques and mosques were shut down due to strict law. But was it really successful? No, my dear opponent. Because people performed namaz and prayer, but law was an error of it. And police didn't break the assembly with fair behavior. Rather, they beat the people with stick and tear gas, which is completely illegal. According to this, the police work was also illegal. So, my dear opponent, what kind of strict law is this that doesn't maintain the condition of law themselves? At last, I want to say that again and again, it is proved that only strict law cannot control coronavirus. Rather, consciousness and other factors are also important. So, my dear opponent, not evening for evening, just come out from a misconception and accept the reality that only strict law cannot control COVID-19. Rather, consciousness and other factors are also important. Thank you everyone for listening to my speech with a huge patience and pray for me. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Mili Sultana. Now I would like to call upon team leader or position team, Sadman Sakib Hemal, to make your discussion.
No man is above the strict law and no man is below it, is stated by the 26th President of the United States of America, Theodore Roosevelt. However, here present honorable moderators, my dear opponents, dear listeners and all the well-wishers, at first take my religious greetings. Assalamu alaikum. Today we are debating on a topic named Only Strict Law Can Control Coronavirus. I am Himel, the leader from position team. Now I am going to deliver my speech. Honorable moderators, COVID-19 or coronavirus is a well-known pandemic in our today's world. There is no alternative of strict law in case of controlling this pandemic. There are only 6 places where there is no law, which are Antarctica, Western Territory of Afghanistan, Virtawil, Slab City, California and Africa. Besides this, there is strict law in almost every places of the world. If we notice in the Parliament of Bangladesh, we will get the lighting example of strict law. In the last year, 2020, more than 100 MPs were tested COVID positive, among which 4 died. But when vaccine, mask and social distancing had been made mandatory in the Parliament of Bangladesh, then we see the power of strict law. Because after that, no MPs were tested COVID positive. Honorable moderators, let's give a focus on England, one of the conscious nations in our today's world. In the running year, the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, was found COVID positive. Her son Charles and her grandson James was also found COVID positive, but she and her country is conscious. Dear opponent, here your consciousness failed to control COVID-19. But when Queen Elizabeth II was kept in quarantine and was isolated with only strict law, then she got rid from COVID-19. So dear opponent, my question to you that while one of the country of consciousness, England saved the life of their queen with only strict law, then how can you deny that only strict law can control coronavirus? Honorable moderators, to control any pandemic situation of a country, strict law is a must. Actually, strict law is enacted at that time when awareness and other moral values fail to control any situation. There is a strict law in this COVID pandemic situation. What does it mean? It means that due to the failure of awareness and other moral values, there is the implementation of strict law to control COVID-19. So dear opponent, my question to you that why there is the use of strict law in this COVID pandemic situation? Isn't it the failure of your long-term, dear opponent? Dear opponent, I want a perfect explanation from you. Honorable moderators, the 4th debater of my opposition team has left 2 questions for me, where in the first question, she said that strict law is unable to eradicate problem like Android game, then how can strict law control COVID-19? Actually, dear opponent, do you know what is Android game ban and what is strict law? Android game ban is that where if anyone violates it, such as play Free Fire or PUBG, no one will be punished. But if anyone violates a single law, the person will be punished. Now, dear opponent, if I play Free Fire or PUBG in Bangladesh, will I be punished? Will I be sent to jail? So, dear opponent, Android game ban is not a law, but you are regarding this as a strict law. So, just don't mix sugar with salt. However, let's move to your second question. In your second question, you said that consciousness is creating a strict law. Then how can a strict law control COVID-19? Dear opponent, I agree that consciousness has created some law, but did consciousness create a single law to control COVID-19? Well, no law has been created by consciousness to control COVID-19. From where do you find a strict law? I don't know. And I also don't know in which sense you left this question for me. Honorable moderators, the first debater of my opposition team said that awareness made Bangladesh polio free. Then can't awareness control COVID-19? Dear opponent, the answer is absolutely no. Because recently I have said that strict law is implemented at that time when awareness and other moral values failed to control any situation. COVID-19 has a strict law. I'm again telling that due to the failure of awareness and other moral values, there's the implementation of strict law to control COVID-19. So it is not possible for awareness to control COVID-19. Dear opponent, I hope you got your answer. Honorable moderators, my opponent team is taking to the help of awareness to beat strict law. But dear opponent, do you know that the village people and the illiterate one don't know what is COVID-19? Then how will they become conscious, dear opponent? Honorable moderators, on 7th August 2020, Jamuna Television posted a video on YouTube where people were showing lame excuses of not wearing mask. Actually, dear opponent, this is the limitation of your awareness. And how funny it is that your one and only weapon awareness failed to control COVID-19. This COVID-19 can be controlled only with strict law, because strict law can give you an accurate time of its effectiveness, where your awareness is just a joke. Your awareness is that type of joke where you are advising people to be aware, but the village people and the illiterate one don't know from which things they should be aware. Your awareness is that type of joke where there is written no mask, no service. But who cares? Even you are not also wearing mask, dear opponent. Your awareness is that type of joke where no country has become COVID-free following this awareness. So, dear opponent, give up the hope of awareness and live up with the hope of strict law. And agree with us that one and only strict law can control coronavirus. By the way, thanks to all for listening my speech. Please pray for me and also for my opponent team so that they can understand our today's motive. By the way, Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Sadman Sakib Himel, for your speech. Now I would like to call upon the team leader of opposition team, Tanha Sharkar, to deliver your speech.
The more law, the less justice, stated by Marcus Tullius Cicero. However, here present honorable moderator, respectable teachers, dear listeners, and all of my well-wishers, as we take my Islamic greetings, Assalamu alaikum. Today, the topic that we are debating on is only strict law can control coronavirus. But I'm strongly against this topic. Here, I am Tanha Sharkar, the leader of opposition team. My opponent, I am here to show you logic, give you idea, information, and whatever you need to agree with me and my team that only strict law cannot control coronavirus. Rather, there are more other factors like consciousness, responsibility, etc., which plays an important role in controlling COVID-19. At first, I want to tell you about COVID-19, which is already said by one of the members of my team. Coronavirus or COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 virus. The virus was first identified in December 2019 in Wuhan City, China. As the coronavirus outbreak quickly surges worldwide, many countries adopted strict laws, which include travel bans, remote office activities, country lockdown, and most importantly, social distancing. However, this faced challenges in developing countries like Bangladesh with one of the world's densest population. Social distancing is a way of controlling infectious disease, but in a densely populated country like Bangladesh, you can't enforce social distancing in many areas. Especially consider the slums in Dhaka and Chattogram, where millions of people live. They live in such a close quarter that it's unthinkable to enforce social distancing there. Moreover, the government made it mandatory for all to wear a mask, which is must in a bid to prevent the coronavirus epidemic. According to the source Prothom Alo, published on 11 June of this running year, it was seen that about 30% of people use masks. Then using intensive monitoring techniques, it was confirmed that the rate of proper mask use was only 12 to 13%. So my opponent, where was the strict law then? Was strict law sleeping at the time? Couldn't strict law make them wear a mask? Oh my dear opponent, strict law couldn't. The government can only legislate, but what enforces the law is consciousness. Along with consciousness, government assistance plays an important role in controlling COVID-19. Honorable moderator, you know that Bangladesh is not a developed country like America, Canada, etc., many people of Bangladesh are still struggling to get food 3 times a day. In this miserable situation, if the government enact lockdown or curfew among people, then how they will feed their family and themselves? Moreover, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, has ensured the food of the people. Again, the government is also paying full wages of the workers, although they are not going to the workplace. All these are just for the security of the citizen. On the other hand, if you look at Bangladesh, the government is managing a few amount of relief for the poor people. But the local leaders take most of the relief and are not delivering the relief to the poor properly. So, my opponent, in this situation, how can you even think that the people will not break the lockdown and come out for earning some money to feed their family and themselves? It is not possible, my opponent. Yes, strict laws are in the place of strict laws, but people are not having the strict laws for their own needs. Honorable Moderator, e-commerce platform is one of the biggest problems created recently in our countries. People trusting their false commitment invest crores of money into these fraud sectors like eValley, eOrange, etc. When this unscrupulous company backs their principle, they try to flee away. In many cases, they succeed. And when people realize the fact, they started hustle and bustle for the money. And then the law caught the directors of these fraud companies red-handed. But where was the law when these fraud companies begging the money? Was law resting at the time? Honorable Moderator, we know that COVID-19 is a rapidly spreading disease that spreads so fast. So my question to my opponent is that where strict law could not catch such a simple fraud influencers in time, then how can only strict law control such a great pandemic like COVID-19 time? I hope I will get a best answer from you. Honorable Moderator, according to Ainu Shalish Kendra, within the first 7 months of this running year, 880 nominal victim of rape, 490 nominal victim of domestic violence, 147 are victim of dowry, 83 are victim of sexual harassment, 12 are victim of acid throwing, and 9 are victim of fatwa. My opponent, can you tell me if each of them has been judged fairly? It has no answer, my opponent. So my question to my opponent is that how can a strict law that cannot do justice can control an epidemic like corona? How, my opponent? How? My opponent team leader asked me a question that where a country of awareness, that is England, saved the life of the Queen with the help of strict law, then how can we deny that only strict law can control coronavirus? My opponent, you have asked a question with an opaque information. The Queen of England had been affected by coronavirus or COVID-19, which is still unclear. The Queen spent most of the time of the epidemic in self-isolation in Windsor due to her advanced age, and this has been possible not because of strict law but because of her awareness. So my opponent, you have asked a question which is no value like a burnt or teared money. So my opponent tried to ask a valid question. My opponent asked me another question that why did the use of strict law in this COVID situation and added that it is because of the failure of awareness. My opponent take the right explanation. Law is like a formality. To maintain it depends upon your choice, and your choice comes out from your consciousness. I hope you have got the best answer. So all of my opponents raise your voice with me and my team and loudly say that only strict law cannot control COVID-19. Rather, consciousness and responsibilities are also necessary. Thank you everyone for listening to my speech with a great patience. Have a nice day to all of you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, all the debaters of both teams. Now I would like to enter the third segment, that is winner team. So we have to have some time to prepare the result. And after a while, we are going to publish the result. So in our judgment, today's winning team is opposition team.
এই ঢেউয়ের সাগর পাড়ি দেব রে তীরহারা এই ঢেউয়ের সাগর পাড়ি দেব রে আমরা কত নবীর মাঝি হাল ধরেছি শক্ত করে রে তীরহারা এই ঢেউয়ের সাগর পাড়ি দেব রে তীরহারা এই ঢেউয়ের সাগর পাড়ি দেব রে কাটে যুদ্ধ করে প্রাণের মায়া সঙ্গ করে জীবনের স্বাদ নাহি জীবন কাটে যুদ্ধ করে প্রাণের মায়া সঙ্গ করে জীবনের স্বাদ নাহি পাই ঘর বাড়ি ঠিকানা নাই দিন জানা নাই চলার সীমানা সঠিক নাই জানি শুধু চলতে হবে হে তোরই বাইতে হবে জানি শুধু চলতে হবে হে তোরই বাইতে হবে আমি যে সাগর মাঝি রে তীরহারা এই ঢেউয়ের সাগর পাড়ি দেব রে তীরহারা এই ঢেউয়ের সাগর পাড়ি দেব রে